I don't like to quote Grace Randolph very often, but I think she made a very astute point when she was talking about the future of the careers of, let's say, Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans post Avengers Endgame, with both of them now departing the MCU after spending the better part of a decade, at least in Robert Downey Jr.'s case, well over a decade inside of that particular sandbox and becoming one of the most popular actors in the world and being very beloved by fans the world over. You would think that his next project would be something that would be heavily lauded by not only critics who love him, but the fans who are going to come out to go and see him. And he chose Dolittle as his next project. And this is one that was announced a couple of years ago. And I covered it when it was announced back then, but they decided to release it in January of 2020 on the same weekend as Bad Boys for Life, which makes very, very, very little sense to me. Like, why would you crowd the weekend when you could just wait a week and open it up and have a free weekend? People are going to want to go see Bad Boys, probably more so than going to see Dolittle, because the critics here, the critics are absolutely shredding Dolittle. I mean, look at this here, 13% based upon 53 critical reviews right now. And I don't think it's going to go up very much. Saying Dolittle may be enough to entertain young viewers, but they deserve better than this rote adaptation, jumbled story, and stale humor. And I kind of agree with that based upon just the trailer. Now, I do intend to see this movie at some point in time, probably when it hits home video. I don't think I'm going to waste any money to go check it out because the trailer didn't interest me at all. Like, there's a dragon. Like, I understand this is a story about a man who can talk to animals. So, I mean, obviously it's far-fetched. And even the original Dr. Dolittle movie that came out clearly had, like that giant weird, like, larva that was in it, right? Like the moth or whatever it was. I don't know. It was like something that a Jules Verne felt like. And so it's obviously not real. But it just kind of feels like, for one, his accent is pretty terrible. I don't know what it was. Is he trying to mimic Captain Jack Sparrow? It just didn't really feel like there was a lot there. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I wanted to take a look here at what the critics are saying because they are really not they're really not liking it. So here's what the story is. So it says here, after losing his wife 7 years earlier, the eccentric Dr. John Dolittle, famed doctor and veterinarian of Queen Victoria's England, hermits himself behind the high walls of Dolittle Manor with only his menagerie of exotic animals for company. But when the young queen falls gravely ill, a reluctant Dolittle is forced to set sail on an epic adventure to a mythical island in search of a cure, regaining his wit and courage as he crosses old adversaries and discovers wondrous creatures. The doctor is joined on his quest by a young self-appointed apprentice and a raucous coterie of animal friends, including an anxious gorilla, an enthusiastic big-brained duck, a bickering duo of cynical ostriches, and an upbeat polar bear, and a headstrong parrot, who serves as Doolittle's most trusted advisor and confidant. I mean, there's actors here: Rami Malek, Octavia Spencer, Kumail Nanjiani, John Cena, Emma Thompson. I mean, even Tom Holland makes an appearance in this one, right? It's just like, okay, that's kind of cool, like, all right, there's good voices in there. But yeah, it's just I don't know. Let's see what they're saying here. So Katie Rife from the AV Club here says, confused, sweaty, zigzag approach to storytelling, which waves away inconvenient details and waves in lame jokes with an equal sense of desperation, giving it a C minus. G.A. Allen here from San Francisco Chronicle says, if the idea was to make the film some kind of delightfully bizarre, loopy trip, perhaps Gagan, the screenwriter of Traffic and Syriana, was not the best choice. Wow, yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Giving it a point, giving it half a star out of four, or half a point out of four. Manola Dargis from New York Times says at some point during its troubled gestation, the movie once known as The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle was renamed Dolittle. Too bad that the rest of this movie couldn't have been ditched as well, or at least dramatically shortened. Ouch. Bilgi Abiri from New York Magazine here says, I wasn't expecting Dolittle to be good, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite this bad. Yeah, that's kind of what people seem to be saying here. Let's see. Alonzo Duralde from The Wrap says, splats onto the screen like horse dung with a few laughs and no charm. Even the actor's legendary charisma, which this project sorely needed, gets tampered down. Oof. And then again, it's going to be people who are going to go see this are going to go see this because of Downey Jr., because of his charisma and his charm. And if it's not there, which it looked, it felt very muted from the preview. It did. It felt very muted from what they were showing us. It just, breathy gasps of dialogue is what it felt like. Him trying to use this very odd, over the top accent. It seemed, just, I'm not saying he had to do his specific voice, but this was Downey Jr. just trying too hard and nobody telling him no. And when you're one of the biggest actors in the world, you're not going to find anyone to really kind of keep you honest, unfortunately. Rafael Guzman here says, Downey veers dangerously into Johnny Depp territory with this elaborately staged but charmless adaptation of the classic children's book. Well, hold on here. Johnny Depp, in regards to, let's say, Pirates of the Caribbean, has been a staple. Everyone loves Captain Jack. So if he's veering dangerously close into that territory, wouldn't that be considered a positive? Right? Anyway, Liam Lacey here says, this is the third remake of Hugh Lofting's early 20th century children's book possesses no charm, despite its starry voice, cast and impressive CGI. Molly Freeman from Screen Rant, again, there's one positive, which we'll get to. Robert Downey Jr. turns in a bizarre but entertaining performance as Dolittle, though it doesn't elevate this generic family-friendly adventure. Yeah. Kalu Pettis says here, Robert Downey Jr. gives a fun performance as Dolittle, but otherwise tragically boring, an uninteresting mess that has shoddy visuals and mindless adventure sequences. What? I mean, if it's meant for young kids, I guess the mindless adventure sequences kind of make sense, right? Kind of, a little bit. Laura Crifford here, Reeling Reviews, says, oddly, the film continually seems to echo Pirates of the Caribbean with its star, a once great independent artist now selling out to franchise, eccentrically outfitted and weirdly accented. Yeah, but again, Johnny Depp was kind of in this lull in his career in 2003. Like nobody expected Pirates of the Caribbean to be good. I mean, there's this old story about Orlando Bloom and Johnny Depp and Keira Knightley at the premiere, and they all expected it to suck, and they sat there, well, we're in this together, but it's okay. We'll get through this together. I'm paraphrasing the story that I heard, but they all kind of had this idea that it was going to be bad. And Gore Verbinski turned out a kick-ass movie. It's my favorite film of 2003 was Pirates of the Caribbean. It's such a good movie. So like to sit there and continuously like attack Johnny Depp over Downey Jr.'s performance here doesn't make any sense. They're vastly different places in their career at the time. Pirates of the Caribbean rocketed Johnny Depp to the fame that he had and ultimately he's kind of squandered, whereas Robert Downey Jr. already had that fame and has had it since 2008. So what exactly are you talking about here, Laura? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, do you guys have any fundamental knowledge of of these movies you're talking about? And I'm gonna be kind of a jerk and say no, I don't think you do. But let's look at the Peter Gray, the AU review. All right, the one guy was an Aussie. Says, as vibrantly colored, loud, rather ridiculous, age-appropriate adventure film, it's very much in the lane it needs to be. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with a film that aims for simplicity. And I do agree with that. Sometimes movies can just be entertaining, dumb stories. They don't have to be, a parfait, right? Or an onion with tons of layers. Sometimes they can just be simple, stupid stories here. Carla Renata, the curvy film critic, says, love talking animal movies, but even the charismatic Robert Downey Jr. can't save this from cinema oblivion. Dolittle loses the charm of the franchise, which made audiences fall in love in the first place. Yeah, but the thing is, the last movie that came out was like in the 1960s, right? Well, okay, sorry, my bad. Dr. Dolittle came out in the late 90s with Eddie Murphy, and the first two were good. The first one was better than the second one, but I get that. But for me, I go back to the original because I grew up watching the original as a kid, watching it on VHS and whatnot, So for me, it's like as much as I enjoyed the Eddie Murphy movie, it seems way more charismatic. And that was on Disney Plus, I believe, but they took it off. Kind of weird. So let's take a look here, just a general reviews to see if we can see anything more. And Angelo Moretta from Now Toronto says, Robert Downey Jr.'s first post-Marvel film is awful, but not in a so bad it's good way. Ouch. Any positives? Just that one positive. No. Okay, Dirk Libby Cinema Blend says, it's clearly wanting to be something bigger, and it's simply disappointing that it isn't. Yeah, that's pretty bad. And it looks like a lot of these people here are just, again, everyone's just giving it this rotten, terrible review. It's an hour and 46 minutes long, and it's Universal Pictures. Man, Universal, they really dropped the ball on this one. They probably forked out so much damn money for Robert Downey Jr. and all the voice cast, thinking this is going to be the big post Avengers Endgame hit. This is going to come out and they're going to make it a big movie and a big deal, and everyone's going to love it. And they're all going to flock to it because it's all these big talents. And it just kind of proves that Anthony Mackie quote from the other day, right? I showed this the other day. The Anthony Mackie quote of saying there are no movie stars anymore, right? You play characters. He's like Anthony Mackie isn't a movie star. The Falcon is a movie star. And that's true when you look at a situation where Robert Downey Jr., one of the biggest stars in the year, leaving a few months after the release of the biggest movie of all time, in which case his character made the ultimate sacrifice to the fact where people were creating petitions to bring him back, and they're still asking him questions during the press tour for this movie. If he's coming back, there's the will he, won't he, if he's coming back. And none of that is enough to even remotely save this in the eyes of critics looking at it through rose-colored glasses based upon their love of Robert Downey Jr. If this is written and directed by the guy who did Traffic and Syriana, holy crap, Universal just had probably what's going to go down as one of the biggest bombs in 2020, and it's going to feature the biggest actor in the world, and that is not good. But hey, at least on the horizon, we've got Sherlock Holmes 3, which should be coming out here, I believe, next year, a solid 10 years after the release of the second one. And Guy Ritchie, I think, will probably help get Robert Downey Jr. back on track. But at the same time, if this movie bombs, Downey Jr. is not going to want to, he's not going to want to like risk anything like this again, which means if this movie bombs, he will be back in the MCU by like the middle of Phase 5. Guaranteed. And that's what I pointed out earlier is like the Grace Randolph quote, because when you have these kind of experiments fail, you're going to ultimately end up going back to where the positivity, the popularity, and the money is. And that's going to be in both Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr.'s career, something in regards to Marvel. I think Chris Evans has a better shot at going the independent route, but Downey Jr. is middle-aged now, and he's had the taste of the fame. And so he's still got that ego. And I love him for it. I do. But I think this is where we're going to find him. Anyway, so yeah, this is the RT recap for how bad this movie is. Your thoughts, your opinions, let me know down in the comments below. I'll talk to you all later. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.